A woman should be who and what she wants. We support the multifaceted woman. The woman embracing many titles, undertaking different ventures, and building generational wealth. You are a Jackie of all trades, master of your empire. Enterprise Empress, you are an unstoppable force.
Hi, everybody.
And welcome to our show, Today's Jackie. I'm your co-host, Sharon.
I'm Natalie Rowe.
And we have a special guest, a Jackie of all trades, master of her empire, and here to help all of the women out there. Please welcome our Today's Jackie, Shannon Leon.
Thank you, Shannon. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So just to tell everyone what this show is about, Shannon, we interview multifaceted women from the community who wear different titles, undertaking different ventures, and building generational wealth. And you can't do that unless you're taking care of yourself. So we're so excited to have you on today to educate us on vaginal and urinary health. Right?
That's right.
That's right. Okay. So Shannon, let's jump right into it because we get 20 minutes and I know that we're going to have a lot of questions out there. So tell us about your titles. That's right. Natalie, I always forget that. Tell us your titles and where you're from.
Absolutely. So I'm from Miami, Florida. I'm a 15-year entrepreneur. But this one is very personal. So I'm founder and creator of V.Pack for Women, a subscription box that's breaking to the taboos of urinary and vaginal health. And I'm also the creator of the Moms Who Pee Their Pants Summit.
Wait, say that again because I think it's so adorable.
So I'm the creator of a summit called Moms Who Pee Their Pants.
How cute is that?
Yes, you have to.
I love the title.
Yes.
Where are you from?
So I'm from Miami, Florida.
Born and raised in Miami, Florida.
In Miami.
Okay, you said you was from Miami, but sometimes people are like, I'm from Miami, but then they were born somewhere else. So that's why we asked again. So I am originally from Indianapolis, Indiana, but I call Miami my home. Natalie, where are you from?
I'm from Miami too, born and raised right here. Yeah, we're homegrown.
Homegrown.
Yeah.
So let's get personal with some of these other homegrown Miamians that are on live with us today. So V.Pack for Women, how did this all start? Because you said it's very personal to you.
Yeah, so I've been experiencing UTIs since second grade, but over the years I've learned to mitigate them or just get rid of them altogether. But after a recent hospitalization at 40 years old, I found myself experiencing the worst of incontinence. I got a UTI that lasted over 2 weeks.
Wow.
And I started to experience other vaginal issues that I hadn't experienced before that hospitalization. It was to the point where I couldn't even leave the house or go to my son's basketball games without having to actually go back home and restart my day. And as you can imagine, get my self-esteem back together.
Right.
So I went on a venture to create this subscription box to support the issue that women were dealing with UTIs and incontinence so that they can go about their everyday lives and having these things that can support them. But when I started surveying women about if they would need the box or if they had these issues at all, I realized that they really didn't know their resources or who they should be seeing or even what they should be doing to improve it. Because when you start to deal with these things, you feel like you're the only one. You feel like you're alone.
Right.
And then the other thing is that you feel like you're in a life sentence to wearing pads and diapers. And at 40 years old, you're not really prepared to do that because all of the advertisement for any products, any resources having to do with this, you see women with gray hair, women who have grandchildren. So you're not really dealing with women who are dealing with the issues that you're dealing with at your age.
At your age,
right.
Which is funny you said that because I always hear people once they get to like 55 and older, they say like, oh, I have a weak bladder now. And what you're saying is it's possible that they could have had this way before, but it just wasn't treated or diagnosed properly.
Absolutely. Like in other countries, we have a lot of access here in the US, even in Canada. But you'd be surprised on how in the UK and Australia, the healthcare that they get is not quite the healthcare that we get. So
there's a lack of healthcare here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we should be doing pelvic floor therapy. before, during, and after, if we have any babies. But even before that, your pelvic floor area could either be tight or loose, because like I said, I've been experiencing these things since second grade.
So tell us, pelvic floor therapy, that's something key that we had not heard of before we talked to you about this. So tell us, educate us on what that is.
Yes, so pelvic floor therapy actually concentrates on everything in your pelvic floor. And yes, women have it, but men have it too.
Oh, wow.
So,
That's good.
but it's, it's more prominently known in women because we do bear children. But it encompasses your bowels, your bladder, and of course your cervix. So it's a function. So
you said you had it since second grade, and it makes me think I'm a dancer. And so I went to performing arts school, and a lot of times we received UTIs. We would go to the doctor and they say you had a UTI, and they always associated a lot of the UTIs and heavy cramps with, because you're a dancer, you have on the leotard a lot. So they were always just treated with antibiotics. And then, your family will tell you drink cranberry juice and lots of water. But you're saying that there was specialists that we should have been seeing and therapy that we should have been getting, pelvic floor therapy, that we were not educated about because it's not covered in the insurance.
That's right. And actually, pelvic floor therapy is quite new. It's about 15 years old.
Okay.
So this is not something that we've, not known about because it existed for a very long time. We're used to going to our gynecologists. We're used to going to just our regular family physicians. But even me experiencing those things very early on, I was never recommended to go to a urologist, and definitely not a pelvic floor therapist. And there's actually a urogynecologist that exists to take care for these issues as well.
Can you talk a little bit about the urogynecologist just to explain what that is?
Yes, because what's the difference?
So a urogynecologist actually specialize in your urinary health. So everything like in the pelvic floor area, they would perform surgeries on your pelvic floor. Like if you needed to get it sewn up, your bladder sewn back into place with a sling, you would see a urologist. Mm-hmm. And when you think of a urologist, generally you think of a gynecologist as the woman's doctor and a urologist as a guy's doctor. But actually, a urologist works with both men and women.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's a really good point.
Mm-hmm. And both, Natalie, you're a mom. Shannon, we actually did not fully get your titles. So you're a mom, you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, and you're an advocate for urinary and vaginal health care. And I wanted to ask Natalie, as a mom, because you have 3 kids, did you hear anything about pelvic floor therapy prior to having kids or even post? Like, has anyone ever mentioned that to you?
No, I've never heard of pelvic floor therapy until last week. Well, actually before that, when we talked about Shannon, but actually in an in-depth conversation was when we talked about it this week, is when I actually learned more about it.
And that's so unfortunate because, statistics right now, Black women specifically are receiving a lack of maternal health care. Mm-hmm. And so for so many women not to know about this, it's disheartening because we associate a lot of the problems with, you hear people say, child, my baby got a big head or a forehead. It's like, it'll mess mommy up.
They wait a
lot. They wait a lot. Or you're a dancer. Like you said, you're an athlete, or I'm getting old and I have a weak bladder. But you're saying sometimes it's not that. It's that we're not receiving the treatment. And I remember hearing you say a quote that says, it's time for us to become comfortable with being uncomfortable with advocating for our bodies.
That's right? That's right. Because we have kind of grown accustomed to talking about periods at this point. We joke about them. It's expected. Everyone gets it every month. But what we're not talking about, and people are suffering in silence with this, is your urinary and vaginal health. Like when it comes to, even with the bowels as well, because you can have incontinence of the bowels as well. Mm-hmm. But with the urinary health, it's important that we teach people how to have these conversations, even with their healthcare providers, because believe me, they're getting surgeries and they're getting treatments and they're not even telling them the full scope of what's going on because they think that they're the only one.
Can you explain incontinence? Because some people don't even know what that is.
Yeah. Incontinence is when you can't hold your urine or your bowels, and you might leak a little bit when you laugh, when you jump, when you exercise. Any little activity can possibly cause incontinence, and some people have it chronically, where you're constantly, running to the bathroom. That's urgent incontinence. If you have stress incontinence, that's the coughing and laughing portion of it. But just whenever you're leaking urine or your bowels is incontinence.
And like you said, that could be very stressful, especially for our audience, a multifaceted woman, a woman who's doing so much in a day, who's carrying many titles, to always have to stop, to have to always, go to the bathroom, to have these accidents. And like you said, deal with the self-esteem around the embarrassment of the talk not being had and people not knowing what she's experiencing.
That's right. There's quite a bit of anxiety around having incontinence or UTIs. As you can imagine, it's very embarrassing. You don't know if you are the only one, but I'm here to tell you, you're not the only one. There's 200 million people in this world that are experiencing this.
Say that number again.
200 million people
200
in the world.
Million.
And 15 million in the US
Wow.
alone. So you are not alone when you're experiencing this.
Tell us a little bit about how diet affects vaginal health.
Great question.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so everybody goes for their cranberry juice. And believe me, I did it for years. But actually additional sugars has a negative effect on you having your UTIs. Even citrus and even caffeine can have a negative effect. But I like to focus on the things that you can have as opposed to the things that you can't have, because when you think of all of the things that you can't have and what might affect me a certain way might not affect you the same way. So it's important to kind of keep a log of what it is, because you just kind of eliminate some of the things that may be causing it. And if you're eating a lot of chocolate, if you're drinking a lot of soda, if you're drinking a lot of alcohol, these things you need to kind of keep track. Do I get a UTI when I drink a lot of alcohol? When I go out on Saturdays, am I getting this? Am I eating this certain food every single Sunday at our Sunday dinners with the family? You kind of keep a log and a track of that. And that's also how you communicate with your healthcare provider.
So I hear you say planning, educating yourself and planning. You're educating yourself by learning what things you're eating by the log that you mentioned. You're educating yourself also with learning what these things are. And also you're using that to plan for when you go to your doctor's visit.
That's right. It's important to have those conversations, because like I said, there are many women that I've spoken with or that have emailed me or messaged me that have even gone as far as getting surgery, and they told me they haven't told their doctors the full scope of what's going on with them.
That's what I want to talk about. So I can understand that, because a lot of times when you go to your gynecologist or doctors, they move so fast. So if you don't have it written out and prepared, you're there, and before you know it, you're finished with your pap smear or you're finished with your exam, and it's like, okay, I'm going to send in another nurse, and you forget what you need to even ask the doctor or all the symptoms if they're not happening at that moment. If you're feeling it at that moment, you don't forget. But if it happened during your menstrual cycle last month and this isn't that week, you may forget some of those symptoms, like you said, if you hadn't written them down.
That's right. And I think it's also important that if you're not able to verbalize these things, that you at least take a picture of what's going on. Because if you have a certain discharge, if you do have blood in your urine, if you are having blood clots as well, that's important to kind of document in pictures so that they can actually see what's going on with you.
That's why you say, that's why she says, become uncomfortable with being comfortable, become comfortable with being uncomfortable with advocating for yourself, because that's uncomfortable to want to have to take a picture and to show the doctor and to have these talks and to even put it in your Google and research it, because you're like, I don't want, anyone to know. But you're saying there's 1 million women dealing with this, so you're not alone.
There's millions of women experiencing this, and about 13% of those women are between the ages of 24 and 44 years old.
Wow.
So there's a lot of women who are younger than the age that's advertised for these kinds of things that, there's no reason to be embarrassed about it. But also going to your healthcare provider, when you go to your gynecologist or when you go to like your family physician, you might have only 15 or 20 minutes with this person. But with a pelvic health provider or pelvic health therapist, you have an hour or two.
Oh, wow. These issues. That's really good information.
Yes.
Right.
So I have two questions before we wrap this segment up. this month is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Mm.
So can you
Good
talk
point.
a little bit about how mental health ties into vaginal health?
Absolutely. It's there a lot of times you do get therapy as a part of having your pelvic floor therapy, which is separate and aside from like the physical therapy.
So
portion
mental and
of it.
emotional therapy
That's right,
as a
because,
part of it.
well, like I said, women have been suffering in silence with this issue. We haven't been able to vocalize this even with our healthcare providers.
Right.
So it's important that you also do that. And
Mhm.
part of the logging process of you logging your foods, logging your experiences with UTIs or even the incontinence episodes helps you also kind of with the mental, the anxiety portion of it, because you're taking it from inside and you're putting that to paper. So once you put that to paper and you're able to share it, you can just pass it along to your doctor. You don't even have to verbalize this, because a lot of times it can't even come out of your mouth. And I know this from experience.
Right.
All you can do there is sit there and cry. So as a part of my company, I working to build a community of resources and give them things that they can that can guide them towards being able to start logging this and getting in the habit of logging these things.
And when you said give them, you're talking about your V.Pack that comes quarterly?
Yes. So my V.Pack is a subscription box that contains items that support the issues, but we also have an app and also a membership community that provides courses and information, diets, and different things like that that can help you either improve or maintain your urinary or vaginal health.
Perfect. Shannon, tell people where we can find you and find out more about the V.Pack.
Absolutely. So vpackforwomen.com. And I also do Moms Who Pee Their Pants. We have a summit coming up June 24th through the 26th. If you'd like to sponsor, please visit the website. And if you'd like to get a ticket to this event, you don't want to miss it.
And do you go more in depth during that conference about other things that may be tied to this that we haven't discussed today?
Absolutely. Because a lot of times when you're experiencing these pelvic floor issues, it's not even what you think it is. You can have a varicose vein in your vaginal area or on your vulva that's causing you to have these issues. So it could be actually something else. It could simply be your breathing.
And it could be tied to, so I was doing research. I know some women have discomfort with sexual intercourse, or like you said, you mentioned you had very heavy cramps, and sometimes people end up having thyroids or endometriosis. So these are things you would talk about in a conference and how they're connected, right?
Absolutely. So I have different experts, from scientists to pelvic floor therapists to innovators in products and services, other doctors that have their expertise, and also just the community, also people just like me who have experienced these issues and created companies and products for people that would attend our summits.
Wow. Thank you, Shannon, so much for this information, for the education, and for advocating, not just for yourself, but for other women. We appreciate it.
Thank
you so much for coming. So now it's time for our God, Your Genius expert, Ms. Nady Hornsby, to join us. Shannon, swap out seats with us, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.
Before Nady comes, though, let's do a little bit of joy.
A little bit of joy.
Okay, a little bit of joy.
joy.
Let's do a little bit of joy.
You had a graduation in your family this week.
I did.
Yes.
She is a multifaceted woman as well. Danetta Dee Fuller. Yes, we're so proud of her. So if you want to know, she just graduated from Florida International University with her business degree.
Yes,
and I'm so proud of her because she is a single mom. And she was able to work full time. She was able to be in social and service organizations and maintain a good GPA while in school, and taking care of her daughter. She has a great village, but I'm just extremely proud of her. And she just started a new business to go to Sky Kiss Couture on IG. If I'm not mistaken, that's what it is. If not, I'll put it in the comments. But she has a new bathing suit business.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And one more shout out, because my nephew graduated today from Louisiana State University, Felix Harris. We're so proud of him. He got his bachelor's degree today in sports administration. So we're very proud. We're aunties that are very proud today.
We are. That's one of our titles.
I love all these business degrees too.
Yes. Go ahead, Nady. I'm sorry.
No problem. That's a great segue, talking about all these business degrees. So today we're going to answer a question that we get all the time on the IG page for Guard Your Genius, and that is, what is the big difference between the TM and the circle R at the end of a brand name? And
right.
That's a really good question, because the
Mm-hmm.
differences have an impact on the extent of your legal protection. So essentially, really quick, on the TM side, any business owner with a brand name can put the TM at the end. Essentially, you're saying, this is my brand and I want you to identify my goods and services with this name or logo. On the other hand, the circle R says that you've taken it a step further, right? You've put a ring on it. Essentially, you have registered your brand name with the USPTO, and you're putting the country on notice that this is your brand name, that this is your logo, and that they need not infringe upon your ownership of the brand.
We have rights.
Great information.
Right. So the differences
Sometimes
matter.
you see the C. Is that the same?
So that's copyright. That's
Okay.
a whole nother area of IP. But, with business brands, specifically coming to their logo and name, people are always curious as to, well, what should I use? You shouldn't use the R until you have made it official.
Okay, so you put a ring on it.
So you put
Don't claim it till they put a ring on it.
Right.
I understand. So where can we get more information about intellectual property and how to guard your brand?
So on IG, we are Guard Your Genius, where we share a lot of business related and IP related information.
Great.
Thank you. But that's our show for the day, Sharon. It went so fast.
It did. It
always
goes so
goes fast.
all the time, but that's okay because we have things in the works so that we can engage with you more. Again, we're not influencers, we're engagers. This only works if you're on and you're communicating with us, because we want to better serve you. So if you want to stay connected to us, go to our IG page, Enterprise Empress, or you can go to Facebook. And if you didn't get to get all the information you want, subscribe to our YouTube at Enterprise Empress and see all of our shows in the studio and in the community that's there to educate you, especially you multifaceted women. Wear your crown and wear it well.
Wear it well, sis.
We're proud of you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.